Robin Rudisil. Is this okay? You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to say my sympathies to the prior speaker in terms of the obfuscations and omissions that she's found in that DEIR. It's very common in everything we all do as advocates for the coast, and I hope you will note those things very carefully for them. From the last February 2016 coastal hearing, Dr. Charles Lester, and I quote, "The Coastal Commission was created by the people to protect the coast for present and future generations. Public participation is at the heart of the Coastal Act, and the public deserves to be heard." David Ewing from Venice, and I quote, "I realize I may be preaching to the choir, but when members of the Venice community hear at the Coastal Commission hearings that we ought to address our coastal grievances to the city rather than the Coastal Commission, we are vexed. We do not come to Coastal Commission as a first choice, but as our last chance for a fair hearing. We go to more city hearings than you can imagine. What ends up at your commission is a fraction of what we deal with at the city level. The amount of demolition, displacement, and development in Venice are an order of magnitude higher than anywhere else in the city. We find ourselves in the middle of a gold rush that sweeps all other values and considerations from its path. These are exactly the kind of political pressures the Coastal Act was created to address with a higher vision. I understand that staff is stretched, but who's fighting for more budget for them at the legislature? Who's telling Los Angeles in no uncertain terms to start doing their permits with correct findings so we can bring appeals way down at the city and the state level? Who's looking at efficiencies for staff reports? And I'll tell you one thing that's not going to help, and that is to abandon your role as regulator for land use issues for residential communities, because it's just going to cause more work because the people, at least in the Venice Special Coastal Community, aren't going to give up. This is a labor of love, and we can't stand by and watch the cheating, lying, the omissions, the obfuscations, and especially the collusion. Everything is so top secret that any case we do request under the California Public Records Act for records for the Coastal Commission, we are told that there's an exemption due to deliberative process. How could that be that every Coastal Commission case has that exemption? Even the FBI director talks about it as deliberative process. We just don't understand what all this has become. And we want you to remember that the public trust has been placed in the Commission's hands, in the Commission's and the staff's hands. And we request that you think about that seriously and honor the public's participation. Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners, Vice Chair Turnbull Sanders, staff, thank you all for being here. I'm Noel Gould. I'm speaking as an individual and not as the chair of the Coastline and Parks Committee of the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. Just a couple of things I want to read from section 3007.5 of the Coastal Act under legislative findings and resolution policy conflicts. It says the legislature further finds and recognizes that conflicts may occur between one or more policies of the division. The legislature therefore declares that in carrying out the provisions of this division, such conflicts be resolved in a manner which on balance is the most protective of significant coastal resources. So it asks that you always bear that in mind when you're weighing considerations, that the most protective of coastal resources is the decision that should be made. And then under section 3006, legislative findings and declarations, public participation. It says the legislature further finds and declares that the public has a right to fully participate in the decisions affecting coastal planning, conservation, and development. That achievement of sound coastal conservation and development is dependent upon public understanding and support. And that the continuing planning and implementation of programs for coastal conservation and development should include the widest opportunity for public participation. This is one opportunity. We get about 10 people to speak for 3 minutes in public comment, and if we have an appeal or something like that before the commission, we might get 5 minutes, maybe we'll get 8 minutes, it depends on what's going on. But there's a relatively small amount of time that we can speak to the commission and ask for your support in vital areas, protecting the coast. there's something that I would really suggest that we figure out a way to implement, and that is dealing with the staff reports, because it says here that the coastal conservation and development should include the widest opportunity for public participation. But at this point, there's really not an opportunity for public participation in the creation of staff reports. It should really be critical that the public is involved in the decision-making process of the staff and be able to present information, both pros and cons to a particular situation. Everybody should be able to say what they have to say, but it's really critical that we get all of that information in there involved in the staff report, because sometimes staff reports maybe we found have errors, and it's the most important thing that we should be able to be involved in the entire process and have as many opportunities to participate in these coastal decisions as possible. Thank you.
Lydia Ponce at Venice. It's been a minute, and I want to thank you for still being here and having this beautiful gathering of people. And I'd like to first recognize the Aloni for their land and permission to speak and to be clumsy on their land. Draw a breath, if you will. Draw a breath as if it's the healthiest breath you can draw. Drink your water and quench your thirst, and look to the land to grow our food. Your food, your tomatoes or corn, anything you want, be it on the terrace of your condominium or in the backyard or the side yards of your home, or be brave enough to grow beans in front and not be ridiculed for it culturally. We are California. I'm looking to you, commissioners, to grow a stronger backbone, united in front of the federal appeals and repeals of this land and the regulations that are going to be erased under this 45th resident of the White House Supreme. The fact that you sit here before us is that we trust in your guidance, in your decisions. From this day forward, I'm looking to you to act as if upon it is your last drink of water and your last healthy breath of air. Being closest to the ocean, it is the best. We all know that. We know that that's why there's such a rush, a mad decision for those who have cash to pay the top dollar for property there and to build their mega mansions, especially in Venice. I have 5 proposed developments on my street, 2 across the street and 3 on the block east of me. When that happens within a month or a week of each other and they overlap, the quality of my life will be diminished further. We have to look to the consent of the people that were originally in this land, because no one's asking in my area, no one's asking the Chumash or Tonga or Hachiman or Tatavian. Right now we have issue in Long Beach, sir. We know that the oil is going to be diminished in 10 to 15 years, and these oil refineries that provide a lot of employment for the families in these communities will be unemployed, and we're going to be looking at something like Flint, because the water quality is diminishing, is being poisoned as we speak. So I'm looking to you each as individual human people, people with relatives in the ocean that visited a family as I took the elevator to come to this meeting, who are here in town for a funeral. But the children delighted in having met the relatives that circled around the boat they were on to greet them, the whales. The children, the smiles, their impression, their faith in the goodness of this world is priceless. That's what you are deciding on. Nothing more, nothing less. You need to grow this backbone to tell our governor, oil money out, people power in. And I beg you to do the right decision for the people.
Good morning, Robin Rudisell from the Special Coastal Community of Venice. It's always felt a little strange that the Commission does not sign an oath to uphold the Coastal Act. But I do know that you do an oath to uphold the California State Constitution, and that includes assuring that California citizens' rights to justice are upheld here in this process. And that's a very big deal. You say your staff at Long Beach is overworked and understaffed, and that may be true. But please know, you need to get at the root of the problem. The appeals you see here from Venice are a small fraction of the problems in LA, and the things we bring here are just the things neighbors care about the most. This is not about us, this is about the people of Venice. The root of the problem is what's going on in city planning, in the city attorney's office, and the city of LA. Fix the cause. Don't waste your time with the symptoms. They continue to refuse to do proper findings. There are specific reasons why in every case. So when the project description is not right or the findings are not done right, staff should remand those to the city. The CCRs allow this pre-LCP, and this is the time to get it right, not to help them play their games and become complicit in working the serious loopholes that exist in the dual permitting arrangement. There was no justice here yesterday, in my humble opinion, for us in Venice. Yesterday, someone said AB 2616 didn't apply to appeals. That's not true. It applies to both appeals and new permits, so we got shorted again. And as a result, there was no concern shown at all for the public outcry about not having the Irving Tabor house hearing closer to Venice, about the side deal between the appeals, the applicant and staff not extending to the hearing. That was shocking to me and a real eye-opener. Also in the Tabor case, I heard staff say all that's before you is those 11 permits, and that the city's building department did something we've never seen before, allowing 30-plus permits with no coastal clearances. And in our appeal, we included all of that in our complaint. And so when staff said that, that's before you, I ran up and gave staff a note that said we did include all those 30 permits in our appeal, and to please tell the commission that, and they didn't. So the applicant gets a free pass on the 30-plus permits. The LA Department of Building Safety gets a free pass on not doing any coastal clearances on those 30 permits, and the inspector who was involved in that procedure, staff has never seen before, and who also did the approvals and assigned himself as the inspector, he's going to get a free pass too. And all of this was in the appeal, and staff chose not to say it's part of what's in front of you. I can't understand it. And then we were told AB 2616 doesn't apply. I'd say we got played, and we know it. And in the last 2 months, our evidence has been omitted from staff reports and addendums. There's always something key, and I could go on and on. But the tragedy here is that our only recourse is the courts. And we hope that you do, and we are hopeful because we know you will uphold the California Constitution and our rights, justice for all, and we thank you in advance.
Morning, Commissioners, Vice Chair Trimble, Sanders. This is Noel Gould speaking as an individual, not as Chair of the Coastline and Parks Commission of the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. In 1972, to quote Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And the reason it was the worst of times is because we were standing on a precipice. We were standing on a precipice of overdevelopment. We were standing on a precipice of the threat of losing our most valuable resource, the California coast, 1,100 miles of it. And it was the best of times because 55% of the people of the state of California got together and worked their butts off to pass Prop 20, which allowed for the creation of the California Coastal Act in 1976. Now it's 41 years later. And in those days, 43 years ago, 41 years ago, there was an unbelievable amount of passion to protect our coast, passion of the people of the state of California, not just in the coastal zone, but all over the state, everywhere, because people wanted to be able to have protected for the rest of time the precious, natural, unbelievable resource of our 1,100 miles of California coastline. And you coastal commissioners are the last line of defense, because back then, 41 years ago, there was this tremendous threat of overdevelopment. But guess what? Things come in cycles. Music comes in cycles, everything comes in cycles. And we're now at a place 41 years later where I think many people take the Coastal Act for granted. Because the coast has been protected so well for so long, it's almost like the act doesn't exist. It's just sort of a fact of our daily lives as Californians. But the fact of the matter is, 41 years later, we're standing on another precipice. Because there's a new gold rush of development and attempts to build as much as possible, as quickly as possible, all over the state. Gentrification, where people of all different ethnicities are being removed from the coastal zone, all up and down the state, where developers are clamoring to use every loophole that they possibly can to build as much as they can, because they know that once that's finished, nobody's going to make them unbuild it. Nobody. So we don't want to be in a position where we have to tell people to unbuild things. You guys are a regulatory agency, and your job is to regulate. And what do you use as your guideline to regulate? You use the letter of the law of the California Coastal Act of 1976. You don't interpret it. you don't say, well, I think the restaurant would be nice here, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So, but that's not enough parking, because the coastline requires a certain amount of parking. Well, we're just going to use our opinions instead. No, you guys are the regulatory agency that interprets the California Coastal Act, letter of the law. Please do that.
Good morning, Lydia Ponce at Venice. I find it really interesting when colonizers welcome such a committee or commission to the land when it should be the Ohlone welcoming you to this land, because this is still recognized as occupied. 37 villages, and I don't know that any one of them have been indigenous here within Santa Cruz and Monterey Bay have been protected or not. I have to investigate. I am ignorant to these things. So I stand before you humbly asking that you remember your connection, as you are 70% water, and water is sacred, and water is life. So we are sacred bodies of water with legs. And the way that we treat each other when we're up here on the mic and you're having sidebar conversations is really rude, because we come a great distance, and we want to be heard for 3 minutes. The things that connect us are the basic necessity for a healthy environment. And these things that happen, this destruction to homes, that if they told stories, if they could speak, the walls would tell you of the people that lived in there before all of us, in the 1900s, when Venice was just becoming Venice, and the families that embarked and migrated from Arkansas and Texas, those whispers of those prayers to survive Jim Crow, the time when they couldn't even go to the pier, the POP. What we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, are the 40 years that this particular commission has played in part of the ethnic cleansing, and the last 20 years that's Venice 3 miles wide. A majority, 99.99% of the more recent, in the 12 years of the ethnic cleanse, have been people of color. And just recently, in the last 2 to 3 years, it's been the non-indigenous, it's been the non-people of color, it's been the people who actually colonized and have great stories of their migrant families coming to make a home here on this land. So I ask you, where are the Ohlone in the program of the 3 days? Some tribal leaders don't want to have anything to do with this particular commission, and I know why. I understand it. I mean no disrespect to you before you, that you sit here and you actually guide, and this whole day, I think this is a lovely change to have you share. It's a breath of life, of calm and steady. And I thank you for sharing and your bravery and your courage to do so. But I also need to ask if you could please somehow, to the San Onofre, that meeting in October, that you invite some of the local tribal people to have their say, to offer a prayer, because we all need support. We all need each other. I don't know if you're really paying attention, but the water, we could have told you all that in the last 524 years plus. All these sacred things that we all need each other. You don't have to like me, but you do have to hear me. And I thank you for that.